Some 13 months ago, I pre-ordered the Accurascale Class 60 from a local model shop, Scooney Hobbies in Kirkcaldy. 60092 Reginald Munns is the first Accurascale locomotive here on Clydebridge station. It's not the first piece of Accurascale rolling stock, as I already have 3 Mark II coaches from the manufacturer, but this is the first Accurascale locomotive to reach Clydebridge station. In this video I'm going to be reviewing this locomotive and giving you a brief history of the Class 60 locomotive, why it was built, and also we'll have a couple of running shots of it towards the end, bringing in some local trains. There's also a video that has been put on YouTube by a couple of people, which is a sort of driver training video for the Class 60, presented by the late Nigel Roberts, a television presenter, freelance journalist and voiceover artist. And in it they say that the Class 60 has the power to move mountains, mountains of freight, that's mountains of coal, mountains of steel, aggregates. So it could pull mountains. But here at Clydebridge station we'll restrict ourselves to hauling 3-coach trains. You'll of course be familiar with the fact that there is already a Class 60 on Clydebridge station, that being the Hornby one, which I purchased from David Watson of Dean Park station a couple of years ago. That is a tooling that has stood the test of time, but this one has taken it just that little bit further. But let's start off by taking a look at the Class 60 story. The Class 60 story begins in 1985 when Foster Yeoman Quarries of Muirhead in Somerset placed an order for 4 Class 59 locomotives. These were made in North America and they revolutionised rail freight in this country, and I do really mean that. They were a forerunner to the Class 66. The Class 59s really did have the power to move mountains, and these American switcher locomotives were able to handle trains that previous locomotives could struggle. The Class 59s were very popular with crews, and in fact so good were they that Foster Yeoman ordered a 5th one, which was received in 1989, and in 1991 ARC bought 4 Class 59s, 591014. That was the locomotives that rail freight really wanted to have. However, there was a concern about the reaction of trade unions should rail freight have went and bought foreign built locomotives, a whole squadron fleet of them, whereas the 59s were actually privately owned by their operators and crewed by BR staff. Now it has to be said right now that the staff were quite happy working with the Class 59s, and indeed 30 of the 135 Class 56s were actually built in Romania, so it's difficult to see how there could have been trade union objections to any another squadron fleet of foreign locomotives. Nevertheless, rail freight decided that it would not go for the 59, but it would have to go for another design. The designers come up with 2 different front ends, one a French style front end and the other, which is the one that you see here. The contract for the 100 locomotives was awarded to Brush, who coincidentally built most of the Class 47s. These would all be built in Loughborough at the Falcon Works. The contract was signed in early 1988, with a date for the first one to be delivered to be 13 months later, and that date actually was held. Two styles of power unit were tested in a batch of 6 Class 37 locomotives, 2 GECs and 4 Merleys engines. 37901 to 6 were normally restricted to working steel traffic around South Wales, but these were designed to give a good idea of what would be the better engine. It should be remembered as well, however, that the 37/9 project was also being used for a test bed for a replacement for the Class 37s and 31s. Had this gone ahead, providing real privatisation hadn't got in the way, then a large number of locomotives, possibly again at least 100, would have been bought, either Class 38 or Class 39, and these locomotives would have been used as replacements for the Class 31s and 37s. There'd have been effectively smaller versions of the Class 60, and interestingly, some of those would have been fitted with ETS to be used on charter work, parcels trains, regional railways trains, particularly out of Manchester, Victoria to Southport and Blackpool, or along the North Wales coast, and also for the intercity sleeper on the West Highland line. Months after the contract was signed, 60001 Steadfast was rolled out of the Falcon Works at Loughborough, named Steadfast earlier in the day by Colin Driver, the Sector Director of Railfreight, at a private ceremony. However, it wasn't until 1992 that all 100 were actually available for service. 60001 had to go for testing, and there was quite a large amount of testing where a lot of teething troubles were shown up. Now, I mean, let's face it, whilst you can get one of these out of the box, a model one out of the box, and run it straight away, you just can't do that with a new fleet of locomotives. They've got to be thoroughly tested, and any problems that arise can be dealt with there and then, and it could lead to slight alterations in the design. The Class 60s were not just replacing 100 locomotives, they were replacing a lot more than that. You see, the Class 60 was a very powerful heavyweight machine that was designed to haul very heavy trains that previously 2 locomotives would have been needed to do. And also, at the same time, some rail freight traffic was declining. The closure of the Ravenscraig Steelworks and the decimation of the coal mining industry led to a lot of locomotives being declared surplus. So in effect, 100 of these were replacing about 200 older locomotives. Like the 31s and the 37s, the Class 60s were equipped for multiple working, although this was very, very rarely used. They were never fitted with ETS, but that did not preclude their use on passenger work. For instance, 60006 Great Gable was the first to haul a passenger train in revenue earning service when a Class 47 broke down on the Settling Carlisle line. The 120-minute delay didn't, of course, console the passengers that they were first to experience Class 60 haulage, but I digress. But the Class 60 was occasionally used on rail tours, and the Class 60 also was used as an exhibit at various open days. But its main job was what the livery said: rail freight. They were allocated to the coal subsector as shown here, petroleum, construction and metals. None of them were allocated to distribution traffic. Accurascale's Class 60 comes not long after Cavalex's version hit the shelves. I've not got the Cavalex version and don't intend to. I went for the Accurascale one, and I've chosen the coal livery. Now, the reason I went for the coal livery one was that my late dad, whose memorial is up here, was actually a miner for many years at Dundonald Pit in Cardenden, Carlisle down in West Midlands, East Midlands, sorry, and then up at Seafield Colliery in Kirkcaldy. This meant that it would be a very appropriate fit, and I'm pretty sure my dad would be quite impressed with this machine. The other reason that I chose the coal sector was at the time I pre-ordered it, I did not have a coal sector locomotive on the layout. That changed in December last year when I bought 56135 Port of Tyne Authority at the Cooper Christmas Model Railway Show. The Class 60 locomotive, you saw it just giving a quick run up and down there. As I say, there'll be some running shots of it near the end, but I already have to say that it's the quietest locomotive in my fleet, and it's certainly a very impressive machine. Let's take a look at some of the aspects of the 60 which I'm very impressed with. The cab area is very well detailed indeed. Having seen some footage of inside a Class 60 when brand new, this is all accurate in here. The two seats, one for the driver and one for the second man if need be. The seats are in a resin plastic, although I don't think that would be mattering too much. The red part here where the driver's controls are and some other controls here, they're all picked out very well. The cab as well has got the accurate windows round here, and the cab windows on the front here are very well done as well. One thing I have noticed about this machine is that the cab area is all very clean and has the engine room door in red in the cab. Now, I don't know if that was accurate or not, but certainly that's a very good touch from Accurascale. At the cab area, we've got the cab doors here with the repeater flashes for the coal subsector down there. The doors don't open as you would expect. And another thing about the cab as well is that the windows do not open either, but they're all accurate there. The builder's plate, that's the brush builder's plate. We have also the Totten depot symbol there, so it's all accurate there, and that's the same at the other end as well. Now remember that this locomotive has not been weathered and will not be getting weathered, so the roof will stay absolutely clean throughout. Again, they've accurately picked this out for a later build of the Class 60 with just the one exhaust port. Accurascale use a roof mounted panel that can be removed and the decoder goes in there. That saves the hassle of trying to take the body off to get access to the decoder. Some people like it, some people don't like it. I like it. What it does have a disadvantage of is that sometimes the roof panel can become loose, and occasionally roof panels can actually end up being a slightly different shade to the rest of the roof. That's not something you can levy here at the Class 60. The roof is a consistent colour throughout. There are no obvious colour changes. Unless I had told you that, you wouldn't know that this panel here came out. The Class 60s got the nickname the Donuts because you were able to, at one end, see right through from one vent to another as being one of the engine room vents. The engine room grills are accurately portrayed in fine mesh, and they have the framework correctly applied here and also here. You can see all that framework there. It's all accurately done. It really is superb, and they've really went to town on this. Now on the other side of the locomotive, there's only this engine room vent area. There's not one of these on the other side. Again, that's very accurate indeed. The colour, the livery of the locomotive is absolutely spot on. The only slight issue I've noticed is that where there's a join between the mid-grey and the light grey, I don't know if the camera can pick up, but there's a very slight line just going through the middle of the coal subsector symbol. I don't know if you are able to see that. I'll zoom in. That's it. Oops, it's not going to pick it up there. There you go. You just see it there. That's the only issue I have. There's no other issues with the paint livery at all. It's absolutely superb, the livery. Another area where this locomotive scores highly in comparison to the Cavalex offering is that with Cavalex, the nameplates are not printed onto the locomotive. Instead, what they do is they only supply etched plates, and they give you a template which you've then got to use to apply the etched nameplates to. That is something I do not like. Accurascale have gone down the same road that Bachmann, Hornby, Heilgen and Vitrains have gone down, and that they print the nameplate on. It's easier for you to know where to apply the nameplate. And etched nameplates are actually supplied with this locomotive. They've not been applied yet. They've also supplied the Totten crest and the BR symbol. As I say, they've not been applied yet to 60092, but they will be getting applied to it. The depot wall hides some of the fine detailing down here, but it is absolutely superb what's been done here by Accurascale. Hatches and engine room doors from the outside are all shown very well. The bogies look superb. They've also picked out all the wiring as if this was a brand new locomotive straight out of Loughborough. And just going to the other end of the locomotive, I won't zoom in too far or it will just blur up, but we have the data panel there and other builders' plates as well. So the brush builders' plates are at both ends of the locomotive. The horns are more robust than what they are on the Hornby offering. This is not a sound fitted example, so it's been fitted with a Dapple chip by Jim Scobie down at Scooney Hobbies in Kirkcaldy. Any end couplers are fitted as standard to this locomotive, and what's interesting is that the coupling hook is black but the surround is a clear plastic. I've never seen that before, but I like that. Other options are available that you could take out the coupler at one end, and there's an option available to put a proper detailing piece on the front that would just slot in there. I believe you have to take out the buffer beam area as well. It's not something I'm going to be doing here, so I won't be discussing that. So, is it value for money? It most certainly is. It was a very quiet machine. It's a very well detailed machine, and it's a very good runner. It won't be hauling freight on the layout. It may occasionally haul the rail cleaning wagon, but this is going to be used for passenger purposes. So the obvious question I have to ask is, should you consider it, go out and buy it, or give it a miss? Depending upon your era, go out and buy it. I say that because if you're modelling in the early 80s, this locomotive wasn't around then. But in EWS and GBRF liveries, yes, go out and buy it if that's your era. It really is a fantastic machine, and it was well worth the money that I'd saved up in my account at Scoonie Hobbies to get this locomotive. I must mention as well that there are functions available through the decoder to operate the lights, cab lights and front and tail lights. There are no options available for sound, because this is not a sound fitted example, but I know some people out there will have the sound fitted example. This came perfectly intact in the box. It was shown to me by Jim at Scoonie Hobbies. It was absolutely intact. So on a score of 0 to 100, with 100 being the best, what score would I give this? 99.5%. As I say, my only issue would be just that slight rib on the livery where it goes through the subsector symbol, the changes from mid-grey to light grey. And that's barely noticeable, so it's 99.5%. So to everybody at Accurascale, well done on a fantastic machine. We'll finish off this programme now by having a few running shots of 60092, bringing in this train that you see here from Newcastle via Carlisle, and then we'll get another locomotive to take the empty stock away, and we'll then bring this loco into the depot. And I must mention, Chet, the name Reginald Munns refers to a gentleman who was born in London but moved to Chelmsford between the wars and to live with his grandparents, and he was in the Royal Air Force during World War II. He was a pilot for a plane that left an airfield in Yorkshire in 1943 for a bombing raid on Munich. The plane sadly went missing somewhere, and Reginald and the other 6 members of the crew who were on board the plane vanished. It's not known where their graves are, it's not known where the plane went. A very sad but a very heroic story. And there we go, that's your Accurascale Class 60 60092 in train load coal livery, named Reginald Munns. And I'm sure you actually saw in those running shots there how smooth a runner it was, but also how quiet it was as well, in comparison to even the Class 47 from Bachmann at a low speed. So it's certainly the quietest locomotive I've ever owned. The test did actually come up with something which I've got to go and fix on the lathe, and that's namely that at the junction to platforms 1, 2 and 3, the light, there's a little bit of a, how can I put it, a little bit of a drop between the two baseboards, and it's likely that's going to mean that I'll have to try and raise it up with more cork at that junction so that derailments and that don't happen, because the drop does have an effect on the trains. But that's for another day. If you've got any comments, queries, suggestions, please leave them in the comments box below. And if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell icon so you can be notified of when new videos appear on this YouTube channel. There's at least one per calendar month. So that's it. That's your Accurascale Class 60. Let me know if you've got one, and let me know what you think of it. And I look forward to your company in the next video. Whatever you're doing, please do take care of yourselves, won't you? And enjoy your lives. And I'll see you soon. Cheerio.